All right, and my first guest for this episode is Bobby Jacobs from Thread. Now, this is exciting because they are last year's, this is 2023, last year's winners of the PitchIT competition. So, Bobby, how you doing?
Doing great, Eric. Thanks for having me here. It's always fun to connect. Love the work you do. Fun to be here.
I appreciate that. And, loved your guys' booth at IT Nation. I thought that was great. Loved how much you guys really get into it with, the costumes and stuff like that. I thought that was really, kind of goes to show the enthusiasm that Thread has for this industry. And I think it's that enthusiasm that kind of came through in your pitch. And I think probably had something to do with you guys winning that competition.
Yeah, it's a great competition. PitchIT is awesome. It's great of ConnectWise to put it on and get a bunch of vendors out there that, people might not know. If you're doing something awesome and you're not enthusiastic about it, I think that's not awesome, right? It probably raises some red flags. Now, being radical is a core value of ours. So, maybe we go a bit over just enthusiasm, and we do that on purpose. We want to be radical with our product, with our partners, with the way that we are in public and at conferences. And so, we like to wear costumes. That's a part of that.
And as a guy who has personally dressed up for trade shows as, George Washington, a cowboy riding a horse, a pirate, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, that's all. It's fun to be in person. People treat you a little differently. We were at an all-inclusive at NerdioCon last week, which was awesome. And my wife was not getting the same level of service that we were in our pirate costumes. The pirate costumes got a little better service.
Yep, for sure. Which is surprising because in the islands, pirates were a real thing.
Yeah.
So let's start out with, what is Thread, so that the people who don't know about it, kind of get an idea of what we're talking about before we get started on the PitchIT stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. At Thread, we help MSPs create magical experiences. We hate tickets. We think they're a terrible way to treat people. They're not meant for communication. Tickets are good for billing. They're good for time entries and logging information. That's kind of it. No one wants to be told to take a number. No one wants to have to grab a ticket or pass a ticket around or take a ticket. They just feel bad. And so, we help MSPs meet their customers where they live. A big part of that is integrated chat support. So, if you ask most MSPs, do you chat with your customers today? They're going to be like, I'm not really supposed to, but I do in Teams, and it doesn't follow process, but it's worth it. But ultimately, they're sacrificing process for customer experience. And in the long run, you're sacrificing process, you're going to sacrifice customer experience because that's going to catch up with you down the road. And so at Thread, we help MSPs follow their process while providing great customer experience. Essentially, the end customer can chat from Teams or Slack. It opens a ticket in the PSA or it logs on an existing ticket. Massive decrease in time to resolution, huge increase in customer satisfaction. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And, we've always been told that it's always better to meet the customer where they're at than force the customer to go to a portal or something like that. So it seems like this is a pretty logical idea.
Yeah. It's, if you're telling someone to do that, but again, you're not following process, you're setting them up for failure. And there's a lot of really great consultants in this space that help MSPs learn how to run a great business. And I think that they would probably agree, meet the customer where they are, but in reality, they're not helping them do that. They're helping them follow process. And so it's really the end user who pays the price because they have to pick up the phone and probably pay a premium for that or send an email. And then you're getting bombarded with just a ton of emails on the ticket, like status is updated, there's a new comment on it, and then you miss the important stuff. And so, it's important to meet the customer where they are, but if you're not doing it the right way, it's going to be painful for everybody.
Yeah, well, to me, and this is why I think, when we first met at IT Nation this past year, I felt like you guys were kindred spirits because I care a lot about customer experience, right? Mm-hmm. Or I call it client experience because we're in this space and it's really clients and not customers.
Yeah.
But creating that experience is one of the best ways for one IT service provider to distinguish themselves from another, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you see people doing it in a lot of different ways. Talk one of my our favorite partners, we call MSPs partners and their customers because it's hard to differentiate. Sugar Shot is a really cool MSP, and they talk a lot about they have this sugar branding and creating these great experiences. And before Thread, I think it was challenging for them to meet the customers where they lived. And so, it was about this great experience, like making things feel really great. But it was all in context of the ticket, and they were just butting their heads against the wall. It was frustrating for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, it sounds like you guys are really filling a niche that a lot of other people haven't yet. And first one to market is always the one who does the best.
Or the first one to die, right? You don't want to be bleeding edge too much where you spend all your money telling everyone what the problem is and then someone else comes and fixes it. So, I go a long time on that, but I think it's healthy to run, or it's important to run a healthy company. And that's one of the things that we learned in PitchIT. There's a lot of really great mentors and sessions and, that talk about the economics of it and how to run a healthy business.
So let's switch the conversation to PitchIT. What is the why behind, you guys submitting an application and getting started with the PitchIT program last year?
Yeah, well, we really respect ConnectWise. They're an incredible company and do a lot of things for the space. And PitchIT is a great example. They don't get anything specifically out of PitchIT. They put up over $100,000 in prize money and have full-time staff helping coordinate this program. And a lot of it is about helping early-stage software vendors provide products to MSPs that are needed, which is great. And so, for any software startup in the space or early-stage company, joining PitchIT teaches you about MSPs. If you don't know, first and foremost, that's a great way to learn. Most people in the space come from an MSP, right? So ConnectWise does some great things there, but more so it's the connections, like connecting you with I don't know, I guess 16 plus experts in the space who come in and do sessions over the course of 4 months. It's called PitchIT, and it ends with pitches where you win a prize, but really it's more of like a startup accelerator where we have these mentors coming in and teaching us about how to run your LinkedIn, how to think about funding, how to run a product team. And so we're really able to plug and play different people from our team into the program to learn from experts. And so when we think about why ConnectWise is doing this, it's really to benefit the MSP. If they're able to work with better vendors and have more products coming to the space, they're going to help them solve problems that are vetted and doing things the right way and aren't going to go out of business and are going to be less buggy and all that type of stuff. I think it makes a big impact.
Yeah, and I really like the attitude that ConnectWise has taken towards it in really trying to create a win-win for everybody. It's really a win-win-win-win because there's so many more people involved with this than just ConnectWise and just the startup vendors. ConnectWise is doing this for the whole community as well. A lot of people that I've talked to have really related this to more of, like you said, a startup accelerator or a startup incubator, those kinds of things where they're bringing in the experts, they're bringing in those cameo coaches that are not just mentors, that are trying to mentor you through a whole process. They bring in very specific topic related coaches to go through not just how to pitch, not just how to do marketing, but how to do so many other things. And it's really kind of it, because it includes those things, it is that accelerator type of environment. So what did you guys do to get kind of prepared for, that jump start and what looks to be like quite a bit of work over those 16 weeks?
Yeah, I think the first thing is just committing to attend all the sessions. When you're running a company like an MSP is, or like a small software company is, there's 1,000 things pulling at you. So to choose to work on the business and not just in the business, every time you join one of those calls, you're sacrificing something else, right? Like I could be on a meeting with my team or a partner or something, and it's super worth it, which is why, we join, and ConnectWise makes it so. But the first thing is just preparing ourselves to be able to join all this calls. Like if I'm talking to a vendor who's about to start, I would say like, hey, just make sure someone from your team is on every call taking notes, because once you start to miss a few, it's probably easy to miss more. And then all of a sudden, like you're just building your company on your own without all these experts helping you. So I think that was the first thing. And, there's a humbleness that comes with it too. Like you have to be somewhat prideful to start your own company and, think you know how to build something that the world's going to benefit from. And so to say like, hey, I'm going to take advice, I'm going to change things, I'm going to openly share, right? There's like 26 plus other vendors on the call. And so to ask questions and say like, hey, this is something we're struggling with. When you do that and you start to collaborate with the other startups too, like someone may say like, hey, I actually just interviewed someone and I couldn't hire them, but that I have like the person that you need for that. Or this is how we've approached our conference spend this year. There's a lot of things like that the community, and there's a Teams channel that we're all in. And, that's another huge benefit, is just being able to collaborate with the other vendors.
Yeah, and it's funny that you bring that up, because I'm hearing that from a lot of the other participants as well, that yes, it's a competition and there's the competitive aspects to it, but because it's also this incubator, accelerator type of environment, that there is a lot of collaboration and cross-pollination, that it almost makes it valuable in and of itself just for that aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's even competitors in it, like Chat Style was in PitchIT this year, who has some overlap with us. But really, we learned going through the program that we really focus on different ideal customer profile. Like we work with different MSPs than Chat Style does. And throughout the program, we actually passed a few MSPs back and forth who would be a better fit for one product or the other. Going into it, I think we were both a little nervous, like, hey, this may be a little too close for comfort. And we came out of it collaborating way more. And I think we saw a lot of people in the space do that.
Yeah. And speaking of being nervous, I saw you guys deliver your final pitch at IT Nation. Extremely well done. You nailed it, which of course is why you won. But how was that first one?
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, there's a couple of rounds. A really interesting round was the first round of like official pitches, where you're pitching to 7 VPs of ConnectWise and they're deciding who's in the finals. That was way scarier to me than, being on stage is a little different. Like that one was over Zoom, but our ConnectWise relationship is really important to us. And there may have been people on that call that we were pitching to that didn't even really know what Thread did, right? Like we're in their Invent program. We do a lot of great things with ConnectWise, but to be pitching directly to all of their VPs of all departments, there's a lot on the line. Like whether we won or we didn't, there's a lot of benefit we could get out of that. So that was big. And again, like props to ConnectWise to getting all of their leadership to be involved in PitchIT and listen to these 26 startups. Like that just accelerates a lot of conversations, a lot of relationships and opportunities. Because for us, we could probably reach out and get meetings with all of those people individually, but we don't have time to, right? Like we're busy working with our partners and we don't want to hire a ton of people to just go do those types of things. And so, yeah, I don't know if that's what you were getting at with that question, but that was a really cool part of the program, was getting to pitch to all those people.
Well, and it's something, by the way, that actual pitch, the pitch to the VPs or GMs of ConnectWise, has come up more than once as kind of I'll say the most intimidating.
Yeah.
And I can see why, obviously, because these are people who are successful in our space, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it does show ConnectWise's commitment to this process as well, that they take the time of all those people to listen to the pitches of 26 plus competitors in the PitchIT program. So I
Yep.
think it's great that there's commitment from both sides, right? You have all the work that has to be done on your side, all the work that has to be done on ConnectWise's side, and then all of the coaches and judges that come in and help with this. So it really is, it's a community thing. And I think the community gets out of it because we're a little bit different in this channel, right? This
For
ecosystem
sure.
is not the same as your typical, even your typical channel, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's some things that are tolerated, some things that are not tolerated. And I know that for vendors who have not been MSPs in the past, who are not connected to this channel, come in and learn about those things and become a much more effective member of the community by doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, you think about if there's this really great product that has been for internal IT or something, and they want to work with MSPs, and something as simple as their pricing isn't set up in a way that MSPs can use it. That burden's going to fall on MSPs, right? They're going to have to spend time with that vendor and help them learn, and maybe even consume a pricing model that is not helpful to them. And over time, that vendor probably will change their pricing into something more channel specific. But if they can go into PitchIT and be like, oh wow, 25 of these vendors have a similar pricing model, and ConnectWise is telling me that I need to have a channel focused pricing model, they're probably just going to change it. And then that's a lot less friction for the actual MSPs, right? They can just consume it, assuming it's a good product, and everyone saves time.
Yep. So going back and talking about PitchIT, what was kind of I guess, probably one of the most difficult things that you found out while you were going through the PitchIT program?
Hmm. Yeah, we certainly were not great about talking about our product and the problem we solve. It's really hard to figure out, like, how do you talk about the problem that you're solving? How do you think about your solution and the vision that you have behind it? We talk about service magic, we talk about killing tickets, but if all I do is talk about those things, someone's going to be like, what do you actually do? Like, what is your product? I'm like, oh, it's integrated chat. Like, that's kind of the short of it, right? If I want to cut to the point, I can say it's integrated chat. And figuring out, like, how to talk about what and when, and we're still figuring that out. Like at NerdioCon, we were learning, like, we say these words at this time, and if we're at a bar, we probably say it this way. If we're at our booth, maybe we say it this way because we have a little more time. But man, it was bad. We did 30-second pitches and like internal competitions and on some webinars throughout the program, and we lost everyone. Like, it's pretty funny that we ended up winning PitchIT because every contest that we did in PitchIT, we lost going through the program. Luckily, we had 5 minutes. I think we were especially bad at the 30-second ones. But we'd get to the end of 30 seconds and we'd be like, oh, and also we do a bunch of AI stuff, and like, it's really cool. And then the time just stops and it's like, all right, I have no clue what's happening. So I think that's a lot of it, is like, when do you use different terminology? When do you go big picture? When do you talk about the problem and the solution? That stuff's hard.
Yeah, it is. And it's, you, like you said before, you kind of have to know your ideal customer profile or your ideal partner profile in this case, to be able to really rein that in and get that laser focus that produces results. Now, speaking of results, I know a lot of people have said that PitchIT was really good for their visibility. And I think you've kind of alluded to that in our conversation as well. But what other kinds of growth and opportunity has PitchIT enabled Thread to do?
Sure. Our relationship with ConnectWise, they're, one of the biggest companies in the industry. And to use our product specifically, the MSP has to use ConnectWise or Autotask. So most MSPs that we work with are using one of those two. A lot are using ConnectWise. So that relationship's really important to us. And so to have the relationship with, Sean and Andrea and the whole PitchIT team specifically, but then their conferences and, Evolve and product and across the board. I mentioned we're in the Invent program, so there's a lot going on. If MSPs don't know about Invent, vendors who are in Invent have gone through a code review, and they have gone through a security review with ConnectWise, and it means that they've basically been vetted to be secure vendors to work with. And so there's a lot of things like that have just helped us become more legitimate to work with ConnectWise partners and to get in front of them. Like if we can get in front of MSPs more affordably, means that we can build a better product and charge less for it, right?
Yeah.
And so to be able to, we did win $70,000+, so that helps a lot of being able to get in front of more MSPs and build more awesome product. But even the ways where we don't have to spend money to do that, like being on webinars like this and getting support from their team, really marketing and sales are some of the most expensive things that early stage vendors get involved in. So that's been a huge lift.
You mentioned like leading up to it, you guys had lost all of your pitches, but obviously you were doing something right to get into the final three. What do you think you did right to get into that final three?
Yeah, we have a full-time designer on our team. So our slide deck, I think, looked pretty good because our team is pretty good at design. So that helps. But I think putting in the work, figuring out the messaging. Part of the reason we lost on those pitches is because we were playing around with different messaging. We're trying to figure out what worked, and there were no real stakes at those ones that we lost. So I think really figuring out what that messaging was, and I think being able to articulate the pain really well. And probably a few days before the actual pitch, my first slide was like, how big is the market? Kind of typical VC slide where you're raising funding and saying that it's the biggest industry in the world. And if we can just capture this piece of it, and everyone's using Microsoft Teams, so this industry is exploding. And the slide was pretty cool, but I think it was like, okay, I get it. It's normal. And then we changed that slide to a video of a guy like slamming his keyboard and crying. And I was like, this guy hates his life. It's terrible to work with MSPs today. Then like switching to that pain, I think like making people feel something and relate to what's happening. That was something that the program helped us do. Like Sean and team were like, hey, this is a pretty boring pitch. Like it's compelling. Everything in here is good, but I don't really feel anything. And that transition, I don't know if that's like why we won, but that was a big change we made that I think was impactful.
Yeah. So you hit them in the feels.
Exactly. That's right.
Great.
And something people can relate to,
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's good.
So, what's next for Thread?
Yeah. Helping more MSPs experience service magic. We have had a lot of really fun releases. We were at IT Nation, we were dressed up as pilots because we are doing a lot with AI. We're continuing to have more releases there. But really, we think about how can we help technicians and how can we help dispatchers. We want to make their lives way, way better. We're doing a lot on the dispatch side. Today, we're automatically categorizing tickets, setting type, subtype, and item, prioritizing tickets. Our AI is over 90% accurate doing those things in platform. And so there's more coming there. You think about helping that dispatcher know who's available, who they should assign tickets to, and then, being able to repurpose that person to go do more valuable work that's not just repetitive. At NerdioCon, I talked about dispatch more than I ever have. Like it seemed to be very top of people's minds. I think that they see that it's a role that can be repurposed and that there's, with AI, there's more opportunities there. So that's definitely an area that we're doubling down on.
Yeah, it really does seem like people are very eager to apply AI to the dispatch role because you can get that ticket. I'm sorry, I used that dirty word.
Kill it.
You can move that ticket further along through dispatch, so it's to a better point before the technician gets their hands on it.
Yeah, and even training dispatch. Like with our categorization, it tells the dispatcher why it set it to the category it did. So now that person's being up-leveled and can go into something else.
Yeah, so it's actually almost like a collaboration between the person, the dispatcher, and the AI. That seems really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for asking, Eric. A lot of fun stuff coming.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing your insights in the PitchIT program, and I wish you guys all the best in everything that you're doing with Thread.
Thanks. Yeah, same to yourself, Eric. Appreciate everything you do for this community and having us on today.
Thank you.